All right, welcome everybody to the channel and welcome to another live stream. This is a watch-along for the 6 hours of Fuji, which is just about to start. Excited to be live streaming this one. And for this episode, I'm joined by a special guest. It's Chris from GT Rain. Welcome, Chris, to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us on this one. And are you excited for the 6 hours of Fuji, which is coming up?
I'm excited for the graveyard shift. That is 4 o'clock a.m. finish here on the East Coast, but looking forward to it. WEC race. With the hypercar field that we have nowadays, I mean, I'll be up at any time of day for it.
I echo your words for sure. And again, thank you so much for joining us here for this live stream. A pleasure to have you on as always. And viewers, if you are unaware who Chris is, he is a fellow endurance racing content creator on YouTube. I've linked his channel in the description of this video. Definitely check it out if you haven't subscribed already. I watch your videos all the time, Chris, as a fellow endurance racing fan, and I can tell you they are high quality. Thank you everybody who's joined so far as well. We got a few people joining, and that will continue to go up. We are currently just about time for the 6 hours of Fuji to get underway. It is currently about 30 minutes until green flag racing, and then we're going to get this endurance race started in Japan around Mount Fuji at the Fuji Speedway near Oyama, Japan. So a very exciting race coming up, and I think one of the biggest stories coming into this race is the championships battles, as we have two championships that can be decided. The Hypercar Championship in terms of the drivers and manufacturers will go on to the 8 hours of Bahrain. But Chris, I think that the 92 Manthey Pure Racing Porsche can win this championship here. That depends, of course, on certain circumstances, though.
Well, yeah, and I think that's actually one of the biggest stories going into this race is of how far down both of the Manthey Racing Porsches qualified. Got to remember, only the top 10 are scoring points here. Right now, this is the first time this season, I believe, that both of those cars are starting outside of the top 10, and we haven't had a single race this season where one of those cars has not finished on the podium. And that's going to be really the main thing I'm looking at today in the LMGT3 class is seeing if they're able to put up together a big recovery drive. They're able to do so at Coda. Reasons to believe that they would be able to do the same here, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting. And as you mentioned, this is the first time where we've seen the Porsches outside the top 10 in Hyperpole with the Ferrari number 55 AF Corsa Vista AF Corsa entry putting it on pole position in the LMGT3 class. So definitely exciting to see how Porsche can go through. And for the 92 entry in particular, they have had one of the most dominant runs across any entry this season. They've had, I believe, 2 wins with the first in Qatar and then the other one in Sao Paulo. And one of the entries that's in that championship fight is the second 911 GT3R. That's the number 91 Manthey EMA Porsche. So we'll see how things go. It's going to be very interesting. So even though the Porsches are starting down the order, it still is going to be a chance for the 92 car to take the championship, especially considering that the 31 BMW, which is also close to the Porsches and in contention for that championship, is also starting outside the top 10.
Yeah, the real thing I'm looking at here are those top 3 in the championship. I've already discussed both of those Porsches. You already mentioned the 31s also starting outside of the top 10. I think there's also a good chance here for some manufacturers and teams who haven't had the best results this year to have a strong showing. I think TF Sport's going to be up there quite a bit today.
Yep.
Of course, the 55 Vista, of course, a Ferrari has been pretty much untouchable this weekend. They haven't been lower than second all weekend in any of the free practice or qualifying sessions. I think they're a pretty strong favorite going into this one, to be honest with you. But there's a lot on the cards here.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be a very intense fight in the LMGT3 class. That's certainly definitely possible. But we'll see how it goes. It's going to be an exciting race. And this is also the first race in Japan for the LMGT3 class. Previously in 2023 was the GTE cars with a Ferrari taking the victory, actually. So can Ferrari repeat success from 2023, this time in the GT3 era of the WEC? We will definitely see how that turns out. But moving on to the Hypercar class, I think, Chris, the biggest story coming out of qualifying and Hyperpole is that Cadillac started they're starting P1 with a phenomenal lap time from Alex Lynn, the British racer, taking the number 2 V Series R to the top on a surprise pole position at a track that honestly I did not expect to see Cadillac take pole at least their first pole in the WEC.
Driving the wheels off that car, might I add. Really good qualifying pole lap. If you're able to go watch it on the WEC social media accounts, would recommend you getting that in with the next 23-ish minutes you have before the start of the race. Split screen it alongside this stream if you can, and of course the race broadcast. Cadillac, here's the thing I'm looking at for them is turn 1. If you remember back to last year, they struggled big time into turn 1. They actually qualified pretty well here last year as well. Forget who was starting the car last year at this race, but had a big lockup going into turn 1, pushed a couple of other cars off track. And I think the Cadillac in particular struggles with cold brakes. Starting on pole today, they're going to have the 8 Toyota hot on their heels at their home race. Hopefully we don't see a repeat of what we saw last year. I think that's going to be the main thing I'm looking at for them into the start of this race.
Surviving turn 1 is definitely going to be critical for sure. And I echo your words, Chris. I think that we want a cleaner start than the start in 2023. We'll see how that goes, though. It is a long straight, one of the longest straights on the WEC calendar, outside of Le Mans, of course. And so overtaking is definitely going to be critical into turn 1 as well throughout this race across both classes. And we'll see how that all turns out. But really, turn 1 is going to be the biggest thing to catch an eye on when it comes to the start of this race. Toyota will be going for their 10th overall victory here at Fuji when it comes to the WEC. Their first coming back in 2012, and only one manufacturer has beaten them here at Fuji, and that was Porsche, all the way back in 2015 with the 919 entry. Porsche start P5 and P8 with both factory Penske entries. There's also a customer 963 in the top 10. That's from Proton Competition. That's the number 99 entry. And Neil Johnny is going to be starting that car. But Chris, Porsche Penske were very quick here last year in 2023. The number 6 car in particular, with the number 5 having its unlucky issue earlier on in the race. But the 6 led for the majority of the laps, was in contention for the victory. And I think that was the first race, in my opinion, where we saw Porsche really show strong pace with the 963. They had shown glimmer of hope in previous WEC events, but this was the first WEC event I think that they really challenged Toyota. They really had a chance for the overall victory. Can we expect something similar in 2024? Is Porsche one to potentially take the win here? Can the number 6 deny Toyota and take the win, unlike last year?
I think it's possible. The 6 car last year definitely took advantage of everybody else having a tough time over in turn 1. They were able to pick up a very early lead there. And like you mentioned, they were able to hold on to that lead for the first 4-ish hours of the race. Ultimately, Toyota slightly edged them out on power last year, or just raw pace, rather. I think this year, from everything we've seen in practice and qualifying so far, they probably don't have the ultimate pace of perhaps Toyota and Cadillac. But, of course, consistency also wins these endurance races. They are still the championship leaders, so we'll have to wait and see.
We will indeed, and it's going to be one heck of a race here at Fuji, viewers. I can't wait for this thing to get underway. Speaking of which, we have 20 minutes until the 6 hours of Fuji is pretty much getting underway. We're going to be racing for 6 hours straight. Long night for both myself and Chris today, but that's what it's like being an endurance racing fan. Got a comment coming in saying, we hope that Lamborghini Iron Lynx number 63 will have a great race in tomorrow. And I think this is a great thing to point out. This transitions well into another subject that I wanted to bring in here. First ever hyperpole for the Lamborghini SC63. Chris, what do we think of the Lamborghini's performance so far this weekend? Is it possible they can get their second points finish, I believe, of the season with the number 63 car, with it starting 9th on the grid here?
Yeah, I think that's really what they should be shooting for, is a solid points finish. I don't really see them as a manufacturer that's even going to be in contention for the podium. Who knows? Crazier things have happened, but I think for them, a solid lower points finish, maybe even able to get into the top five if we have a very unpredictable race. But I was a bit surprised with how much performance Lamborghini had this weekend. So I think that any result in the points paying finishes, points paying results, or places rather, it's already too late for this, would be a real win for them.
Agreed. Yeah, we'll definitely see how things play out in this race. It's a long event for sure, and it's all about having a good one. And I hope that Lamborghini can perform really well here. As a Lamborghini fan, as a Italian manufacturer fan in general, we'll see what they can pull off with the SC63 here in Japan. Viewers, I want to remind you that we, of course, are streaming this race, but if you want to check out the live feed from the WEC, visit the FIAWEC.TV app. That's where you can watch the full broadcast. If you're in the United States of America, though, that's going to be geo-blocked, so the best place to watch is going to be on the Max streaming service. That's where I'm watching. I believe that's where Chris is watching as well. Great place to watch, of course. And here we're going to be talking about the race, giving our thoughts on the start, the first few laps, and of course the pre-race as well as we're discussing right now. We also have live feed to the right of your screen with the cars from the top 12 for the 6 hours of Fuji and where they're placed at this time. So that's great to see as well. Also, for folks where this race is actually taking place in Japan, it's going to be on J Sports. I wanted to point that out because I know there's going to be a lot of Japanese fans tuning in for this event, considering it is the WEC's return to Japan for the 6 hours of Fuji. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. I want to do a bit of a callback here. You mentioned Italian manufacturers. I think the other big surprise for me this weekend is the fact that Ferrari, their highest qualifying position in the hypercar class, is the number 50 car down in seventh. I've drawn a lot of similarities, or I've at least tried to. Maybe it's just me grasping and clutching at straws here. But I think that you're starting to notice certain tracks where, despite the balance of performance that's in place here, there are certain tracks that favor different cars. And I think the Ferrari is definitely always strong at high speed tracks with long straightaways. This being one of them. They were very strong at Coda last race out with its high speed corners and long straightaways. I was surprised that they weren't higher up in qualifying this race. And I think the big question for me is that number 50 car still sort of looking at the championship picture. Are they going to be able to find themselves up into the top five, maybe a podium?
Yeah, that's definitely a good point to mention because Ferrari are starting in 7th, 12th, and 13th, respectively, with the 50 ahead of the 51, ahead of the Texas winning number 83 customer AF Corsa entry. So it's possible that the 50 car could get a podium. I think that Ferrari have never stood on the podium here at Fuji overall in the WEC. But I think that could potentially change here in the WEC's 2024 race here. If anything happens, I think that Ferrari are up there. They have experience in prototype endurance racing. The 499P looks competitive. You mentioned how they're pretty quick down the straights, and we have a very long straight here at Fuji. So I think it's definitely possible that we could see a strong result by Ferrari, at least one of their cars. And I think that one of those cars that could be up there is that number 50 entry. They are battling for the championship, as you mentioned, between the number 7 Toyota and the number 6 Porsche. I believe those are the three main cars that are in the championship hunt, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So they need a good result here. I think last year, if we look to last year, because that's the only kind of idea we have of what Ferrari's pace was around here at Fuji in the race. Last year, they finished 4th and 5th and were clearly lacking pace to Toyota. Didn't seem to have the same pace as the 963 Penske entries, at least the number 6 car. And this was the only race where they didn't finish on the podium. However, I think that they'll have learned from that race and they'll come back stronger in 2024. It's going to be interesting to see how they perform here at Fuji. But I think that if they can get a solid result here, at least with the number 50 car, that'll be good heading into Bahrain because it's going to get very intense in that final race. They need every point they can if they're going to look to challenge Toyota and Porsche for this championship.
Right. Especially Bahrain being a higher points paying event.
Right. Agreed. I totally agree with that. And I mean, Ferrari also got a podium last year in 2023 In my opinion, I think they also had the second fastest car, and I think things are changing as well in 2024. So we'll see how it goes. It's definitely going to be interesting. I really hope that Ferrari can take the fight to Porsche, Toyota, maybe Cadillac as well in this race, and perform good. We'll see how that goes though.
Right. I'll say right now, I think in the long term, my favorite going into this race is definitely Toyota. It's a pretty easy pick. You mentioned they have every single win here since they joined the WEC back in 2012, with the exception of one, which went to Porsche. They were mighty strong here back in the LMP1 era against Audi and Porsche. They've been undefeated in the Hypercar era here. And the main thing I pull out of that racing team in general is just how strong and consistent they are. Um, Even when they haven't had the ultimate pace favoritism that in a certain race weekend, they're still able to find their way to the front and pull off a relatively strong result given the cars that were handed to them. I think this weekend, starting second and fourth at a track that they have more experience at than anybody else, a track that they have more success at than any other manufacturer, period, still my favorite in my pick going in.
I fully agree. I think that Toyota are the favorites heading into this race, and I think all the other manufacturers will look to challenge them. This is Toyota's home race, as we mentioned. This is a track that they own as well as the Toyota brand. I think there's a lot of support as well, and I think for a lot of fans, they would love to see Toyota take that 10th overall victory. I mentioned this actually in my race preview that I did for a video format just a while back, that I think that the brand would be very proud to take a 10th overall victory. That's quite an achievement here at Fuji. Of course, Toyota has won here at Fuji in the past, but before the WEC, but this would be the 10th overall victory as the reborn World Endurance Championship from 2012 onward. So yeah, we'll definitely see how they can perform here in 2024. I think in past years they have dominated the event compared to the 2024 event. I think though that this is going to be one of the first races here at Fuji where we're going to see Toyota under pressure more so than other events. I think that they're going to have a lot of competition, mainly from Porsche. I think Cadillac has got a very strong car here. I mean, considering that Alex Lynn put the car on pole. BMW also looked kind of pretty competitive, I would say. Dries Vanthoor said that he could have gotten pole position if it wasn't for a Lamborghini getting in the way in qualifying. Of course, that didn't happen, but the BMW starts third. Best ever qualifying result for the M Hybrid V8 in the WEC. Chris, BMW was very quick at COTA. They had a very strong car. We're running in third and fourth for a little bit. And the 20 car almost got one of the best results for the M Hybrid V8 until those penalties that came later on in the event. Is this redemption for losing out on those big points in COTA? Could BMW secure a strong result here in the hypercar class with Team WRT, a team, by the way, that took the LMP2 victory last year and dominated that event in the P2 category?
Yeah, it's all down to execution. You talked about how strong they were at COTA from a pace perspective. They were also very strong at Le Mans.
Yep.
Dries Vanthoor put that car in provisional pole in qualifying, which I think was a surprise of the event, really. Ultimately did not have the same success in Hyperpole. But I see that car as a car that looks like it's pretty happy on long straightaways or tracks that at least have long straights and high-speed corners, this being, of course, one of them. Yeah, we'll see. It's a track that it is a track that I think is going to pay well for that car. It's just a question of if that team can execute over the course of a 6-hour race, which of course WRT can. You mentioned they picked up that LMP2 win last year. This could be a surprise race for them.
I agree. Yeah, I think that we're definitely going to see a pretty strong performance from BMW. I think it's really about, like you mentioned, executing that, making sure that the car can be reliable to the end and staying out of drama. We talked about earlier in this live stream that surviving turn 1 is going to be a very big crucial moment in this race. If some sort of chaos happens at turn 1 on lap 1, if BMW can get out of that unscathed, I think this would be a really good result for them. It really all depends on that first corner, and then after that, there's many more factors to consider. But I think as long as they don't get damaged, as long as they can stay consistent on pace, and as long as they don't have any major reliability issues or mistakes, I think they can come away with a good result.
Yep. I was just watching the Le Mans Light little pre-race display we got going on here with the military delivery of the national flag. Very similar to what we've seen at Le Mans in recent years.
Yeah, one of the coolest celebrations, pre-celebrations here at Fuji. It always is an awesome sight here at this track to see the celebrations before the event. And viewers, we're just about to get underway. The cars are just ready to go out. I think we have 3 minutes until the cars are going to be starting their engines and going out on track for the formation laps. This is going to be one race for sure that's going to be going down into the history books, I think, because considering the Hypercar field has 18 entries in this class, and then you look over at LMGT3, the same exact number, and with 9 manufacturers present, all looking very competitive. Speaking of LMGT3, I just want to quickly mention this, Chris, because this was another standout performance in qualifying. I think a car that can potentially get a really good result here. Lexus, home Grand Prix for Lexus, a Codis ASP, put that car, I believe, 6th on the grid with the number 78 entry, got that car in Hyperpole. This is Lexus's home Grand Prix. Can they pull off a great race here in Fuji? Can they get their best result of the season on home soil, technically?
Well, they definitely need to. It's been a disappointing season for them thus far. They have the pace here, though, and we know that team and other championships has been very strong. So I don't see any reason why this can't be a race where they finally get that breakout performance.
I fully agree. Yeah, I think that Lexus has got strong pace. It's just about having a good one, here at Fuji.
Yeah.
We'll definitely see how it goes. All right,
And
viewers.
how about the Iron? I was gonna say, how about the Iron Dames as well? They were my
True.
pick on my predictions. I said that they would finally be able to pick up their first podium of the year. They've had awful luck this season in both the WEC and the European Le Mans Series, it seems. So hopefully, starting 4th in this race, this is one that also or that doesn't really go the same way as the recent races we've seen from them.
You make a great point there. Iron Dames, they have had a torrid time this season. It has not been the best of years for that Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo with the Iron Dames. I think you mentioned as well that they've just been having a pretty unlucky season across the last couple of races they've been competing in. I think the standout result for them across their participation has been the ELMS round at Imola when the Porsche entry that they have secured the win in the GT category, which was great to see. But other than that, it's been a pretty difficult season for them across endurance racing. And I hope that they can secure a pretty solid result here at Fuji. And then they're, of course, heading into an IMSA event in Indianapolis. I believe that car is coming back for the final 2 races of IMSA since it is
That's right.
entered into the Michelin endurance rounds. Yep. And so we'll definitely see how it goes. But we have the cars officially going out on track. The race is about to get underway, viewers. Formation lap is beginning 5 minutes until this race gets underway. Wow, it's going to be a pretty intense one, a pretty exciting one with so many fantastic race cars participating in this event.
Yeah, you said it yourself. Somebody asked for our predictions, I guess, going into this, our ultimate picks. I know from my side, we do predictions myself and often the S's, who is my co-host on the Rain Race podcast. Small shameless plug. We do predictions before every IMSA and World Endurance Championship race. Going into this race, I said I think Toyota is the ultimate favorite. The number 7 car is the one I picked. The number 8 car is the one that's starting on the front row, but the 7 car is not far behind. You have to wonder if they're in a position to do it, if Toyota is going to play the team order game and look at the championship here. Might be a little unpopular, especially on home soil, but that's the question that I'm really looking at. And then over in the LMGT3 class, I believe I picked the 82 TF Sport Corvette. They were one of the manufacturers and one of the teams that I said was pretty strong going into this race. They haven't had the ultimate pace of the Vista AF Corsa Ferraris, who I think secretly are probably the actual favorites for this race. But we'll see. TF's definitely going to be in contention here.
Yeah, I have an interesting. I'm trying to remember my prediction. I think I predicted it during our last live stream that we did. Um, And by the way, great prediction, Chris. I think that we could potentially see. I think that Toyota are definitely the favorites, as we've mentioned before. Corvette looks strong as well. I think that's possible. So I definitely agree with your prediction. It'd be great to see that. I think I predicted the number 6 Porsche to take the win here at Fuji, which is definitely possible. They showed strong pace last year, but I think this is another. Secretly, I do think that Toyota will likely have a strong result here. For LMGT3, I did go with the number 92 Manti Pure Racing Porsche, but this was before Hyperpole took place and qualifying took place. So that, for me, I feel like that could kind of change. But as I predicted, it was the number 92 Manti Pure Racing Porsche to take the win. I mean, this car has been so dominant. It's been on the podium in pretty much all the events this year, besides Le Mans, if I'm not mistaken. And even though it's starting further down the grid, I think it could definitely move up towards the front. So we'll see. Those are our predictions, though. Viewers, let us know yours down in the comments as well. We'd love to hear those.
Somebody was also asking about what's going on with Peugeot and that 9X8. It's a question we've had all season, I guess, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, that 9X8, my goodness. I mean, Qatar was a great race for them. Then they had that incredibly unlucky moment towards the end with Jean-Marc Verne having that bad luck. And then, of course, the car got disqualified. Then it was a new car was introduced with major changes at Imola, and it just hasn't been their season. It really has not been their season. They haven't really had standout performances. I think Peugeot is still looking to get. They're trying to get a hold of this car. This is a new car for them, technically. I think Sao Paulo was their best race with that new car so far. The 9X8 was in a position to secure some pretty strong pace. I think it was running 6th for a while with the number 93 car. The 94 has had a really, really difficult time this year. It has not gone their way at all across any events. The 93 has had better luck, but still, it just hasn't gone their way. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully they get a stronger result here. But Chris, I'm just watching the screen right now, and if viewers, if you see myself or Chris looking off to the side, that's probably because we're watching the race live, of course. But we're getting ready. I think the cars are lining up. I think we have to say it again. We hope for a clean turn 1, right?
Yeah, my eyes are gonna be glued to turn 1. If we survive turn 1, I think that's where the real race begins. But let's see.
Definitely. As viewers, we are just about to get underway for this 6 hours of Fuji race. We are back in Japan for another event. This is the 2024 WEC 6 hours of Fuji, the penultimate round of the season. Cadillac starts on pole position with Earl Bamber leading us away in the number 2 V Series R. Can Cadillac hold it down to turn 1? That is the question. The number 8 Toyota in the hands of Sebastian Buemi, who gets great starts, by the way, is alongside him. Let's see if Toyota can take their 10th overall victory of the year. Here we go, viewers. It is time to get underway for the 6 hours of Fuji as the cars make their way down the long pit straight down to turn 1. And we are just about to go racing as the number 2 V Series R leads us away and starts this 6-hour endurance race. Pretty good start by Alex Lynn. A great start by the number 15 BMW, which seems to have got ahead of the number 8 Toyota. Pretty clean start so far at turn 1, as the number 6 Porsche is also making its way through the field, but it's Cadillac who leads from BMW from the number 8 Toyota in 3rd.
Also looking back at the LMGT3 class, the number 81 TF Sport Corvette picking up the lead outside of turn 1 there. But yeah, a very clean start across both classes, it seems so far, actually, right as I say that. Looked like the number 6 Porsche might have pushed the 7 Toyota off track. A little argy-bargy going on down further down the hypercar class between the two championship favorites right now.
Indeed, yeah, and that's kind of bunched up the field, and between the number 6 Porsche down, it's under pressure from the number 7 Toyota, which is actually looking to go for a move on the number 6 Porsche. A lot of cars are going side by side as they head into the very close turn 10, I believe that is, as the top 4, or top 3 actually, continue to lead this race and are starting to bridge a gap. but the number 6 Porsche still holding on to 4th from the number 7 Toyota. The Proton Competition Porsche has also got ahead of Ferdinand Habsburg's number 35 Alpine. Oh, the BMW number 20 has been pushed off the track a little bit of contact, wheel banding between the 5 Porsche and the 20 BMW. They're still side by side. Oh, the BMW now pushes the 5 off the track. Little bit of aggressive maneuvers here, but sometimes you got to go for it, right?
Yeah, I think my facial reactions probably just described everything there as I was seeing it. Cadillac, though, Earl Bamber taking an early lead here, and it looks like, all right, what are we doing into turn 1 here? The Ferrari's locking up the number. That's sort of what I expected was going to happen in turn 1 on the first lap.
That's major contact for a lot of cars there, especially the number 5 Porsche, which has lost its entire back wing. The 83 Ferrari has been spun around. That's bad news.
Yeah. 5 Porsches missing their entire rear wing assembly. It looked like both the 51 Ferrari and the 83, the Coda winners, were also involved in that. Trying to look down the field here to see who might have a little bit more damage.
51 Ferrari's got major damage there as well. The 5 Porsche, my goodness, that's going to be a one big work for the Porsche Penske crew. Last year they had similar misfortunes where they had to come into the pit lane early. Similar things happening in 2024, and we have a safety car to probably clean up that debris at turn 1. Wow.
Yeah, early safety car, which is not unforeign, or it's not foreign here. We've seen this before at this race as well. A little bit of a chance to catch our breath here, I guess. Unpack everything that happened in those first couple of laps. Get a replay of what happened with the Ferrari. The 51 just got into the back of the Alpine there. And that would have been the 35 Alpine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe so. And the 83 as well tapped the 5, which tapped the 51 around. Wow. That was honestly, I feel like that was on the Ferraris, right?
I was trying to see what happened there. I couldn't tell if the 51 just locked up on their own or if they got help from the Porsche, who might have gotten help from the 83. I'd have to look at that again. Well, it's a good break for the number 5 Porsche. They're able to actually get that car repaired under safety car. It's a pretty long track here, and they probably won't go at risk of losing an additional lap here. But looks like we get another replay from an outside angle. So the 83 Ferrari, the 83 Ferrari definitely locked up, got into the number 5.
Yeah, which triggered this whole
effect.
And
they hit the 51. Okay.
So the penalty will likely come to the 83 Ferrari. That's my guess. This caused chaos really at turn 1 as cars were backed up. So the 83 hit the 51, which hit the 5. Or sorry, the 83 hit the 5, which hit the 51, which hit the 35 Alpine. My goodness, I believe that was Nico Lapierre who just put his hands above his head, because my goodness, that is just super unfortunate. But this has changed the order quite a bit, Chris. Both Peugeots have moved into the top 10. That is a big surprise. Number 94 ahead of the number 93 into 8th and 9th. That is big for sure. So this hasn't really affected the top 7. This has, however, affected the rest of the grid. This is just chaotic. And do we have any update on number 5 Porsche? I didn't see what was going on with that.
Well, they're still replacing the rear body assembly. Yeah, that number 94 car, they just showed it on a graphic, up 10 positions since the race start. Sort of what can happen here in turn 1 at Fuji. I really thought if it was going to happen, it would be on lap 1 right into the race start. Everything went pretty clean on the first lap of the race, a little bit of shuffling around and some questionable moves, but ultimately I think the first lap was pretty clean. Right into the start of the second lap, though, that's where all hell kind of broke loose.
Yeah, there was a fear that turn 1 would have some sort of chaos, and I think it was inevitable, I guess. So yeah, I think we're going to get another view of what happened here. So yep, the number 83 Ferrari seems to be the cause of this. Hit the 5, which hit the 51 Ferrari, which hit the 35 Alpine, and the rest of the cars just took avoiding action from that incident. But that seems to be on the 83 Ferrari there as major contact for sure. This has resulted in a mix of the order completely, and this has basically spun and damaged at least 4 or 5 cars in this field.
Take a look at the number 12 Jota there into turn 1. That was some very quick reaction. Actually trying to figure out who was in the car at the time. It would be Will Stevens in that car. Sort of saw that that wasn't going to work in turn one and decided to just bail on the turn entirely, not get involved in that mess. And they are, if I actually look again, up to
14th.
14th. I can't remember where they started already, but they started down as 16th. So didn't make too much out of it, but at least that car is still in one piece, which you can't say about every car in the field right now.
True. I'd like to see a an onboard of Will Stevens and then number 12 Hertz Team Jota Porsche. I'd like to see his quick reactions there. But yeah, this is major news, viewers. If you haven't seen what's gone on, or if you're just joining us, major contact at turn one on the second lap, not the first lap. This was between the number 83 Ferrari, the number 51 Ferrari, the number 5 Porsche Penske, and the number 35 Alpine, with another couple of cars involved as well, just kind of going off track and avoiding this this major incident. The number 5 Porsche has come into the pit lane. Thankfully, none of the hypercars seem to be out just yet, but the worst damage has been taken by the number 5 Porsche, in my opinion. I don't know if that car has rejoined the field in a unlapped position. I don't know exactly what's happened, but this has really changed the order with the two Ferraris involved, down to 15th and 17th overall, and the 35 Alpine, which started up there as well, also down to 16th.
Can somebody help me understand what happened to the 55 Ferrari in LMGT3? Because they dropped and are now down in 11th in GT3 after starting on pole. And it had me questioning whether they had a pre-race grid penalty that I just didn't know about, but it doesn't look like they did. I'm trying to figure out where they lost all of that position on track, because as far as we saw, there wasn't a similar incident down in that class.
Yeah, you make a good point there, because that car is now behind the sister AF Corsa entry, and of course it started on pole position. I haven't seen any information from the WEC pointing out to this, but viewers, if anybody knows what has happened to the pole sitting 55 Vista AF Corsa Ferrari, please let us know, because yeah, Chris, you bring up a very interesting point there. That car has dropped 11 places, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of places for sure.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, they're in 14th in class now, and they may be in the pits. Yeah, they've dropped to the back of the class, at least if my timing's right, which is on. There we go. There we go. On the video feed. So the 55 Ferrari from the pole is in.
In the pits. Yep.
Now, is this... I'm trying to figure out if this is strategic. Nothing really looks dramatic here. Looks like they're just topping it off on fuel. Potentially doing a tire change here, yeah.
It looks like a normal pit stop. I don't understand.
It looks like they might be checking the brakes or something.
It's something with
or
the
maybe
brakes.
The suspension. It's either no, it looks like they're behind the brakes. I can't tell if they're looking at the suspension or.
Yeah, it's something behind.
My guess is they probably had contact with one of the other cars and they wanted to make sure the car was fine. Now we didn't see this. I'm guessing they probably either got pushed off track a little bit. I can't imagine it would have been a full spin, because you probably would have fallen further down the order if it was a full spin. But my guess is they had contact on the first lap of the race, got pushed off track somewhere, and then brought it in to make sure everything was okay. Now, they're not going to lose a lap doing that, which is good for them. But what's not good for them is going from pole down to 18th in the matter of 10 minutes here.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate for the 55 Vista AF Corsa Ferrari. They started, of course, on pole, and they're now basically last in the LMGT3 field, which is super unfortunate, but we'll definitely see how this carries out. We have a comment coming in. I just wanted to point this out because this is awesome. Skybird mentions that they're live at the race. Looks like the 51 of the flaps in the right rear by the outside of the corner of the wheel is a little loose. Interesting. So it looks like the 51 has got some damage that seems to be, I don't know, they haven't pit the number 51 Ferrari, which won Le Mans last year. I don't know if that car is going to be coming into the pit lane to fix the issue that it seems to be having, or if it's okay to continue. I would hope that it's okay to continue and it can push on for the remainder of this race.
Well, the way I see it is you get a free pit stop right now, essentially.
True.
You also get an opportunity to top up on fuel. And if they have any concerns with that car, just bring it in. You're not going to lose a lap right now. I think it's the time to do it. You're already pretty far down the order after that incident. I don't know exactly where the 50, they're already down in 15th in class. So I don't see any reason they wouldn't bring it in. Get a replay of the start here, which was, like I said, by all means, pretty clean. Actually, that would have been the 50. Okay, so here's where we're going to see, where's the Ferrari in this? Okay, so they were not even, they were down in like third or fourth at the race start.
It must have been something that happened at like the turn 6 hairpin or something like that. Like later on in the lap, something happened to the 55 Ferrari, or it was something from the beginning that happened. I don't know.
63 Lamborghini getting pushed almost down into the pit wall by one of the Penske Porsches there. Okay, I'm still trying to figure. So now I have an onboard here from the 87 Lexus. And everything looked pretty clean still. I'm glad I'm not the only one still trying to figure this out. Clearly, WEC broadcast directors are doing the same. Here's the contact between the number 5 Porsche and that would have been the 20 BMW, if I'm not mistaken, because the 15 was further up.
Yeah, it looks like neither of. I mean, the 5, of course, has damage now, but both of these cars didn't have damage from this particular contact, it seems. But that kind of triggered this major contact that we had at turn 1 on lap 2. But still, we don't know what's going on with the 55 Ferrari. And just a quick update, someone in the comments mentioned that there is diffuser damage to the 51. Oh, both Ferraris into the pits.
51 and 83 both.
Mm-hmm.
So right time to do it. I mean,
you called it. And so
now I saw that front damage on the 51. I didn't see anything with the diffuser, but of course I'm not at the track, so looks like they're probably going to change the front nose clip, and I don't know if they're going to just look. Okay, they're doing the front and rear change with that car.
Interesting. And for the 83, it looks like there's something also. It looks like the front as well has also been being changed. As we see an aerial view now on the live feed of what happened, of the chaos at turn 1, triggered by a lockup from Robert Kubica in the 83 Ferrari, which of course won the Lone Star Le Mans event in 2024 just recently. This is just major chaos at turn 1 on lap 2. I feel like this might be even more chaos than what we saw last year. But thankfully it's not the first lap, and I think that this doesn't involve too many, or it involves similar amount of cars, I guess.
Can I be honest with you? Looking at that onboard from Makoviecki and the number 5 Porsche, I don't think he was going to make that turn regardless of getting hit by the 83. He was going in there with a full head of steam, not on the racing line, maybe a little bit less grip over there. And it looked like he was bound to make contact regardless. Now, he might get saved by the fact that he hit the 83 and just WEC will throw all the blame on the 83 car. But regardless, they're also joining the 83 and the 51 down in the bottom of the overall classification behind all of the LMGT3 cars.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. Yeah, I don't know. And I just want to point this out real quickly before I forget. The 83 Ferrari and the 51 Ferrari have dropped behind the number 5 Porsche Penske. So the Porsche Penske has continued on track. They have fixed the car, it seems, and that car has rejoined ahead of those 2 Ferraris after they pit. So all 3 cars will be looking to make their way through the field, as well as I wonder when we're going to get the safety car back into the pit lane. I wonder when we're going to get Green Flag Racing back. Hopefully soon.
It should be pretty soon. I don't know if you caught that radio message there from the 55 Vista AF Corsa. All I heard was failure. I couldn't hear what part failed, but clearly something went awry on that car. Actually, you know what? It's 2024. Let's just rewind and see what they were saying.
Yes, we can definitely do that. And yeah, so it definitely seems like there's something that happened there with a failure. Meanwhile, the 88 Ford Mustang is coming into the pit lane for what seems to be a refuel. Alrighty, so it looks like we're going to get racing back underway in just a moment. Number 2 Cadillac will lead us away, followed by the number 15 BMW with Marco Wittmann behind the wheel, and the number 8 Toyota, followed by the number 6 Porsche, and last year's winner, the number 7 Toyota.
I couldn't hear what the issue was with the 55. I didn't hear exactly what it was. I know they were telling the driver of that car, Francois Ariot, to make adjustments to the traction control and ABS, but I didn't catch what the exact issue was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe we'll get more clarification.
Someone in the chat can help, probably. With better ears than me.
Well, it looks like we're going to get back to racing here. Cadillac is leading the field away. That is the number 2 Cadillac, the V-Series R, which started on pole position. Earl Bamber leads this field as the number 6 Porsche Penske is already looking for a move on the number 8 Toyota, potentially heading down into turn 1. Also watch for Marco Wittmann potentially looking for a move on the number 2 Cadillac. The number 6 Porsche is going to go side by side with the number 8 Toyota into turn 1, but then eventually does back out. Maybe a little bit under pressure from the sister Toyota, but it gets a very good run off of the number 8 Toyota and gets ahead into the second or third turn there, and that allows the number 6 Porsche Penske to move into the top 3. That's a big move from Lawrence Vantor there. That moves him ahead of Sebastian Buemi. Great news there.
Yeah, setting up that move perfectly going into turn 1, making Buemi defend that position, and then getting him on the exit with that better run. We get a very nice couple long straightaways here at Fuji. They get that main straightaway, which is extremely long. I think you mentioned it's the second longest one that we have on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get a pretty nice long straightaway afterwards as well. Not completely straight, but flat out nonetheless. Going into, I guess we'll call it turn 3.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's definitely a great place for overtaking around this track. Lots of different opportunities. Sorry, I just got distracted by an Alpine that looked to almost go off track, but I think that it's all good. Peugeot looking strong as well. I just want to point this out. The number 94 car is on the back of the 99 Proton competition Porsche. Neil Gianni will have to hold up the 94 Peugeot, which actually has raced here 2 times before, the 9X8s. Not in its current variation, but Peugeot looked pretty competitive in 2022, even though it was their first race here. 2023, it wasn't like a super strong race, but it seems they're showing some pretty okay pace here at Fuji. We'll see, but the Cadillac continues to lead as we are seeing the 2 Hertz Team Jota.
Yeah, better keep it clean there between those 2 team cars. It seems like they didn't quite do that, but
yeah, was that contact between the 2 at turn 1? I think one of them went off track.
I don't think it was contact. I think it was just more, trying to keep both cars in one piece. And we're seeing the McLarens try the same thing. That did not work out.
That definitely did not work out. It's in the grass as well. That's the number 95 McLaren 720S GT3, if I'm not mistaken. Some of the hypercars are getting past here, but wow, that didn't work out for the McLarens. That was worse than the Hertz Team Jota Porsches for sure. Do you think we're going to get some radio communication between the 2 drivers and say maybe some harsh words?
Maybe some complaints from one party, but I don't know. I was also noticing that the number 7 Toyota picked up. They're under investigation for a technical infringement.
Oh no!
What that may be this early on in the race, I'm not sure, but keep your eyes peeled to that, because a penalty at this stage of the race would be very hurtful for them, having to make their way up through the LMGT3 category. If they got that penalty in the next couple of laps here. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. That would definitely be not good for the car that is in contention for the championship as well and secured second. So we will see how it goes. Also, Chris, I just noticed that your screen is frozen, but now it's back. There we go. I think we're good. Had a little bit of technical issues. Maybe it's on my side, all good. But anyway, the number 2 Cadillac, Earl Bamber, pretty good gap to the number 15 BMW. This is so far going good. I don't want to jinx anything right now, but this is looking good for Cadillac.
Yeah, we've got an LMDH car top 3 right now, which is not what we had at the start of this race. The 15 and the number 6 cars are both really capitalizing on the start of the race and also the contact we saw over in turn 1 on the second lap. Now, 7 car has been assigned only a reprimand for that technical infringement for maximum power. So what I would assume happened is these cars are all controlled very finely by the ECU, and they're limited to a certain power specification set by the balance of performance. I'm guessing they very briefly exceeded that for one reason or another. Got the 12 Jota there and the 20 BMW. Some nice battling going on further down the field here with the 35 Alpine also in the hunt there as well. This is only for 13th position, but BMW is going to get a very nice draft down the long straightaway here, and it looks like they're probably going to be able to get that pass done by turn 1.
Yep, and the BMW does split the 2 Hertz Team Jota cars, and it's possible that we could see that car potentially try and fight the other one, but it's got to fend off against the 12 as Will Stevens looks to try and make that move on the number 20 BMW with the 35 Alpine not far behind either. This is a very, very close fight between these cars here. And, we're seeing a replay here. Contact, it seems, between the 38 Hertz Team Jota Porsche and the number 20 BMW, or at least a little bit of a push off the track or something like that. That moved it down to I believe 13th. So Rene Rast has now reclaimed 13th from the 12 BMW. Maybe we'll try and reclaim from Phil Hansen in the 38 Porsche.
Yep, taking a look back at the LMGT3 class here. Race winners from last race out at COTA, the Heart of Racing Aston Martin picking up a 4th place here, at least so far. Some American inter-manufacturer battling going on as well between the number 77 Proton Racing Ford Mustang and the 82 TF Sport Corvette. It looks like the TF Sport might have a little bit of rear damage from that onboard camera we just had.
I noticed that.
Maybe just something's a little bit loose on that car. Hopefully not affecting the performance too much.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I hope that car doesn't have too much damage where it needs to pit, but so far Corvette are looking really strong. The 81 TF Sport is leading this race with the 82 in 6th. If they finish in some sort of position like this would be their best result of the year. So we'll definitely see how that goes. But yeah, moving up to the Hypercar field, we're still seeing this this battle for what is, I believe, 13th place, mainly between the 35 Alpine and the number 20 BMW M Hybrid V8 from Team WRT. So a lot of fighting going on across both classes, but it is still that number 2 Cadillac that leads away. Actually, 2 American cars lead here in Japan with the TF Sport 81 Corvette, I believe in the hands of Tom Van Rompuy, if I'm not mistaken. Could be another driver, but I could be wrong, in the lead of this race. But yeah, so far, pretty interesting and fantastic race we've seen here at Fuji.
Yep, you are right. It is Tom Van Rompuy in that car. All the bronze drivers starting here, at least at the front of the field. Had a penalty, a drive-through penalty for the 88 Proton Mustang for pit lane speed. Not what they're going to want to see right now, although they're not up at the front of the field as we stand anyways right now. Now, I'm very curious to look here between the Proton number 99, 963, and the 94 Peugeot to just look at the pace difference. Now, of course, the 94 is going to have a big advantage with that draft. It looks like they're probably going to get that move done into turn 1 here.
Maybe with the 99's coming back at the 94, unless the 9X8 makes a switchback maneuver, kind of like what the number 6 Porsche did earlier on, but the Porsche stays ahead of the 9X8 Peugeot, and it will get the 94 will have to re-overtake the 99, or at least try and re-overtake later on in the lap. This battle's getting very intense for sure for what is 7th place.
Yeah, I think that's pretty telling, actually, because it seems like most cars that were in the position that the 94 was in there would have had that move done by turn 1. Maybe they were a little bit further back, but I can't tell if it's really drag that's really affecting that car and its current specification or what it is. It just doesn't seem like they have the grunt down the straightaway that, number 1, they used to have with the previous specification of that car, but also compared to the competition. And when you look at the balance of performance tables, which is one of the worst things you can do as a sports car racing fan, you would notice that that car is pretty much at the maximum power levels that are defined in the regulations while also being at the minimum weight for the most part. I mean, there's a little bit of wiggle room in there with the extra speed or extra power that can be assigned after 250, is it 250 or 200 kilometers per hour.
It's
I forget.
250. I can't remember exactly. Yeah.
250, I think.
Yeah.
But regardless, it looks to me like that might be an area where they're still struggling. And if that's the case, it's not going to be a very easy race for them because this is a track that their competition is going to be able to get by them on these straightaways. And if they're not able to fight back, it's going to be a very long 6 hours.
Yeah, indeed. I think that we're definitely gonna see. We'll see how it goes. That's kind of what I can offer. Peugeot right now sitting eighth and ninth. We'll see if they're going to be able to get a better result, but definitely a factor to consider. What you just mentioned there, Chris, and so we'll see how it goes. I want to quickly mention something, a comment that came in that said, "Hey, I appreciate your channel. I'm digging into GT racing and trying to learn all the classes and levels. It's a tad daunting. Besides YouTube, any other good resources to learn from?" I would say, as we're seeing, contact at turn one between the 91 Porsche and the 31 BMW, two cars that are having a championship battle as well. Just to quickly note on this comment here, I think looking up sources from highly respected articles, like, for example, as the 83 comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, they got a stop plus 30 for that turn one contact, and I think that's what they're serving right now.
And that's not good news for the 83 car, but it seems to be justified because this is a major contact, and we're just seeing a replay of what happened there. So the 83 will be last in the hypercar field after that. But just to finish what I was saying there, just to respond to this comment, I think reading, like, for example, motorsport.com has great articles such as Sports Car 365, Daily Sports Car, a lot of great sources out there that provide excellent sources of news and also updates on what's going on, information on classes such as like BOP, the regulations, etc. So definitely check out those. Another source I would suggest as well is the WEC's Discord server or the Reddit Discord server. There's a lot of great information, a lot of great people in there. I think there's a few highly respected people in there. I think Graham Goodwin is in the Discord server. So he provides a lot of great information, of course, there's a lot of very high professional people in there that do great resources. So I definitely check out the Discord server. I definitely check out a lot of those articles from like Sports Car 365, motorsport.com, Daily Sports Car, etc. And go forward. Anyway, moving back to this race, Chris, I'm sure you're seeing this battle between the Peugeots and a lot of cars going through this GT traffic. This is kind of the first time we've seen a lot of these cars having to manage this, and this definitely can jumble up the order sometimes, the traffic, and this is the pure heart of endurance racing.
Yeah, and catching traffic at the worst part at this circuit, which is the final sector, very difficult to really find an on-track opportunity to pass cars there. Sometimes you're just stuck waiting behind them until you get to this long main straightaway. Know that personally from playing Le Mans Ultimate, the official video game of the FIA World Endurance Championship. Where's my paycheck? No, just that's the traffic's going to play a huge part in this race, though. If you're trying to catch these cars, you're going to want to do it on the long straightaways, which this track has a few of them. In the final sector, I can see you're probably going to lose 3-4 seconds on a car that doesn't get stuck behind them there. Is going to play a really big part in this race, and it actually has made finishes here very dramatic before as well. And looking back to 2016, which I think was probably one of the greatest WEC races of all time, if you ask me. Fantastic finish between Toyota and Audi for the victory of that race. And it looked like traffic might play a factor into hurting Toyota's chances of getting that win. But ultimately, we're barely able to hang on there. So we'll see. This is a track that I think is very interesting with the traffic in terms of where you end up catching them.
Absolutely. Yeah, traffic is definitely a critical point in this race. And for 6 hours, this is definitely, a lot of these cars in the hypercar field, a lot of these drivers will need to pray that they don't encounter this difficult section of Sector 3 like you mentioned earlier, that can affect the traffic, as we're seeing this kind of affect the traffic right now as the Alpine number 36 is trying to overtake the 63 Lamborghini. These are two new cars to enter the World Endurance Championship, and they're going side by side down to turn one as the 36 Alpine with Mick Schumacher, son of 7-time Formula One world champion Michael Schumacher, behind the wheel. The Lamborghini stays ahead for now, but Schumacher is going to use his experience and try and split the GT traffic of the 27 Heart of Racing and go around the outside of the 63 Lamborghini. Is this going to pay out well for Schumacher? He gets pushed off the track a little bit. They're still side by side as they go round the long right-hander here, and the Lamborghini will stay ahead for the time being. But what a battle that was for what is 10th place at the moment, and just for the points playing positions. And it's not over until it's over, of course.
Yeah, what a battle we had there. I thought surely that the Lamborghini was going to try to use the Heart of Racing Aston Martin as a pick there. It looked like Schumacher was having none of that. And then we're side by side essentially through the entire long sweeping right-hand turn there. Don't know the corner number, unfortunately. But they're continuing through GT traffic here. I just mentioned how dreadful the final sector is when you're stuck behind GT traffic. Well, now both of them are, so we'll see who gets the better of this one.
Indeed, yeah, it's definitely going to be fascinating to watch this GT traffic play effect as the Alpine is still looking for the move on the Lamborghini as we head into the remainder of Sector 3. Also, just want to mention something real quickly. Thank you so much to Wardrobe Plays, who just donated $9.99, which really appreciate that. That's a huge support for the channel. Really do appreciate that. Still a battle right now as the Lamborghini's got really strong straight line speed. Remember, viewers, and this is something we can probably talk about too, the Lamborghini is best placed on power and weight when it comes to the balance of performance. I believe they are tied with Cadillac and Peugeot for that, which is great to see. But yeah, I wonder if the BOP is affecting the Lamborghini in a good way here. Chris, do you think that they could potentially use what's the positive side of the BOP to help them have straight line speed down the straight and get that advantage?
Well, sure. At the end of the day, BOP giveth, BOP taketh away. One race to the next, but you're gonna have to play to your strengths here. If this is a track if this is a car that is well suited to long straightaways, high speed circuits, they're definitely going to enjoy this one. But I think overall we're seeing these cars pretty evenly matched right now, at least between the Lamborghini and the Alpine. And I think the battle we saw last lap is a pretty good testament to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree with you there. And I think that it's going to be fascinating to see as we're seeing I think that's the 38 Hertz Team Jota Porsche, which has joined the fight for this battle for 10th here, and the 35 Alpine, as well as the second Hertz Team Jota Porsche, is also in that fight as well. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see. We're seeing a live speed average as well. I think the Lamborghini and the Alpine were pretty similar on speed as well. Oh, it looked like a little bit of a wide moment for the Lamborghini SC63, but it might have just been the camera angle on my screen.
Yeah, I mean, difficult to get these cars slowed down for turn one. You're going close to 200 miles per hour, 320 kilometers per hour into turn one. There's a couple different lines to take it as well. You can widen out the exit and try to get a little bit more speed onto that next straightaway. Seeing looks like the 51 Ferrari continuing through the GT traffic as well. Further down the field, of course, with that early race incident they had in turn one. Looking for a strong recovery from that car right now.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need to play the long game strategy and catch up. Two for the 83 Ferrari and technically the 5 Porsche as well. The 83 Ferrari, of course, had that penalty, which dropped them all the way to the back, dropped them all the way further down the field. This is not good news for the 83 car after such a strong race where they got the win, of course, in Texas. This is totally the opposite of what happened in that event at Lone Star Le Mans. So, seems to not be their day here at Fuji, but it's still a long race. We still have a long way to go. We've seen some pretty crazy racing in the past in the WEC where cars are all the way at the back or something happens and then they go on to win the race. It's definitely not impossible. Also, I want to point out something real quickly, Chris. We were talking about earlier in the stream that the Lexus were performing pretty well here in qualifying. They now sit ninth and 10th, both cars in the points right now. They're one of, I believe, just two manufacturers that have both of their cars in the points. Maybe three. I couldn't see the exact number, but it's turning out to be a pretty solid race for the Yakotis ASP RCF GT3 Lexus entries.
Yeah, it's still early hours in this one. I'm curious what their long-term pace looks like. Their pace over the course of a couple stints, especially double stinting, triple stinting, maybe tires. Probably not tripling here, but yeah, we'll see. How many times have I said "we'll see"? By the way,
I haven't
if you have a
noticed.
counter on that, I don't know if anybody's playing a game with that, but I think I've said it probably about 15, 20 times already in this stream.
Well, that's okay. I've probably said words so many times in a row. It's all good. We had a comment coming in from Gavin Lee who asked how many laps so far. I don't have the counter of how many laps, but I know that we are just about 40 minutes into this event.
21.
21. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, 21 laps so far and many more to go. Chris, we are just, I mean, as I just mentioned, 40 minutes into this event, nearing the hour mark, but we still have 5 hours to go after that point. This is going to be a long race. I mean, here at Fuji, we're going to be ending at 5 p.m. local time. For us, as we mentioned earlier on in the stream, it's going to be very, very early in the morning. But yeah, for you and me, we're going to need to get some sleep at some point or get some sleep earlier.
No, there's no sleep.
True. As endurance racing fans, we stay up till the break of dawn when it comes to endurance racing, or even longer when it comes to like the 24 hours of Le Mans.
I'll put my hand up. I'm missing F1 in the morning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the WEC's got awesome racing, you know. We can, and we're also in 2024. We can catch the replays for stuff too. That's a good point. But yeah. Anyway, we're seeing a good battle for second right now. James Cottenham and the 59 United Autosports McLaren fending off against I believe that's Sarah Bovey, the bronze racer in the Iron Dames Lamborghini. The top three are separated by just a few seconds. It's getting very intense in the LMGT3 field. And three different cars in the top three. Actually, in fact, it's 5 different cars in the top 5, which just proves how competitive the GT3 category is in this 6-hour endurance race.
Yeah, and I did my check-in a lap or two ago of the, I'm just going to call it the Manti plus 31 WRT BMW check-in, see if they're up in the points yet. And none of those 3 cars are up in the points yet. Matter of fact, they're all running sequentially. 92 car is in 13th, 91's 14th, and the 31 is 15th. So as it stands right now, the top 3 in the championship combined pick up 0 points out of this race weekend. But this is a long race, and I do see this as something that at least one of those cars is going to end up in one of the points paying positions towards the end of this race. It's just a question of who can capitalize the most on the other car's shortcomings. I think this is a race that the 31 car really needed to be fighting for a win. The sister car, actually, the other WRT BMW is up in 5th in class. If the 31 car was up there with the 46, they would be able to get a couple points back on the Manti Racing Porsches. Ultimately, though, right now it seems like they're sort of in a similar boat.
Yeah, all 3 of those cars are down outside the points, so as it stands, they won't be securing any points for this race. But like you mentioned, I think this is going to definitely change throughout the event. There's going to be stuff that happens. Meanwhile, the number 88 Ford Mustang Proton competition entry gets a penalty for crossing the safety car line, I believe, 1 second. I can't read the text. I didn't see what happened. But the 88 car is going to come into the pit lane for a 5-second stop and go penalty, if I'm not mistaken, which is definitely not good news for them, but still a long race to go for sure. But I think I echo your words there. I think the 31 needed to be fighting for a win here. It would definitely be a really strong result for them if they could secure a podium or something like that. It's definitely possible that they can do that and something happens to the Porsches. If that happens, then the championship, of course, will go on to Bahrain, and it's looking very likely that it could. But we'll see how that works out. Meanwhile, speaking of BMW, their 46 car is currently in fifth in the hands of Emmett Harty in the number 46 entry, which also has Valentino Rossi in the car. This is a three-way fight for fifth. I wonder if we're going to see any position changes into turn one.
Yeah, the draft definitely nowhere near as strong for these GT3 cars as it is for the hypercars down that long straightaway. Although it looks like TF might be setting up a move here. Maybe not. Actually, the 54 might be the winner out of all this, and no, not really. I thought the 82 car might have run a little bit wide on the exit there. The 54 could have set up a better exit, but not quite the same thing. It's very interesting if you're new to endurance racing and you look at the style of how these cars race each other between the hypercars and LMGT3. It's a very different method of trying to use these cars. The hypercars, obviously, they're getting stronger slipstreams down the straightaways. They're a lot more aggressive into the turns. The GT cars, in addition to being slower on track just in terms of pace, they also have to spend more time setting up a move. You're not going to see them sort of switching back positions as often as we see the hypercars. I think that's really the takeaway I take between these two classes.
Yeah, indeed. I fully agree with what you said there. So we'll see how that goes. And we have a battle right now for what is this? I think this is
This would be down
for
in 10th.
10th. Yep, you're correct. Also, viewers, there's a little bit of a glitch going on with the live stream, the live data here. It showed that the number 6 Porsche got into second momentarily. That didn't happen. Oh, actually, never mind. I think it did because the 15 BMW has moved down to fifth. Maybe it's pitting, or maybe they are also having a glitch. I think they're also having a glitch.
I'm seeing the 15 on second on my timing still.
Okay, so I think there's a glitch going on with either my timing or my feed or something like that. But the BMW has not changed position. In case you're confused by the live data position changes. Meanwhile, here goes Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, I was just talking about a minute ago about the strength of the slipstream here for these hypercars. You're seeing it in action there with Mick Schumacher on the 63 Lamborghini. Now the question is he able to set up the pass outside of turn one? Doesn't look like it. Who's in that Lamborghini at this part of the race? It's Edo Mortara. Sort of didn't leave him a whole lot of room on the exit there, but ultimately holds that 10th place position and the one single point that comes with it.
And both of these racers as well are have raced or are currently racing in single-seater cars. Of course, Mick Schumacher, a Haas Formula One racer in 2021 and 2022. Mortara also racing in Formula E. And so maybe they know they're a thing or two about defending in a single-seater car. It seems they're doing the same here in an endurance racing car. Of course, it's very different to that. Oh, as we see a brilliant move from what looks to be Will Stevens, almost splitting the GT traffic with the Alpine. Looks like the Jota car does not make the overtake, but still, that was looks to be a very intense fight here for the very successful positions right now. Meanwhile, there is I don't know what's going on with the live data glitch, but on my live stream, I keep seeing the 50 Ferrari moving up and down the order. I think there's something going on. Anyway, but moving on, Chris, I'm assuming you're seeing this battle right now for second in LMGT3. Let's see if Sarah Bovey can pull it off.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was bound to happen there in turn 3. Now the question is, it looks like she has a little bit more pace. Can she wait this lap and try to stay hot on the heels of that 59 McLaren going into the final turn and then maybe draft down the straightaway? You have to be pretty close in these GT3 cars off the corner. You can't be half a second back and then finding your way ahead by turn 1. This is something that she's really going to have to set up here.
Absolutely. And I think that it didn't seem like the Toyotas that were just passing there affected this battle too much. Hopefully, the cars behind don't either, because I think we have the 50 Ferrari incoming, which is closing up on this battle for what is, I believe, second at the time being. This is allowing also the 81 Corvette to get ahead. Meanwhile, speaking of Corvette, the 82 has just got ahead of the 46 BMW into what is fifth place. Wow, Corvette are really having a great day. Actually, in general, GM brands are having a really good day. Both Corvettes are in the top five, and the Cadillac is leading overall. Wow, look at this battle for what is? Oh my goodness, there's so many cars involved here. Sorry to cut off what I was saying there, but this is very intense.
We got 10th for. Okay, so Mick Schumacher's by the Lamborghini. We didn't see that. But this is a battle for 10th in Hypercar. Now there's some GT cars in there as well. I was trying to see who we were looking at in the GT ranks. It looks like Schumacher's going to try to defend turn one.
He will.
Question of how the exit looks. And it looks like he's going to hold on to it on the exit as well. Now, the 38 Jota Porsche is up in the mix now as well, sort of a result of these two going at it. Not really working together at this stage of the race. Well, why would they? They're not racing in the same team. But it's also allowing the 35 Alpine to catch up as well, back in 13th place. So we have a good little four-way battle here from 10th down to 13th. Maybe with that second Alpine getting involved, perhaps if they're able to get by the 38 car and also the Lamborghini, they're able to work with their teammate and get together a little bit of a racing plan here.
True. And I also want to mention as well another car that's in this fight. Mick Schumacher's chasing down the number 93 Peugeot. So French battle here, it seems, for ninth now, as the Peugeot could potentially join the fight for this. This is going to get very, very interesting between, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, I believe. Actually 7 with the 20 BMW kind of going back there. Is Will Stevens makes a bold move on the 35 Alpine and gets ahead, it seems. Wow, that was very, very bold from the British racer.
Not a move you would commonly see in the last turn there, and I'm a bit surprised that he had the exit that he did. Now the 35 is going to get by again here, but very unconventional move there, being in the last turn.
Looks like the Alpine's coming back at the Jota car, but it's going to get held up by the McLaren.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Exactly.
Now, looking at the live timing as well, we saw a minute ago the visual gap that the Cadillac has pulled out at the front of the field. I think that's something I wasn't expecting, at least going into this race, was for them to be this strong in the race. But also, I'm looking at the gap between the third place, number 6 Porsche, Lawrence Vanthoor at the wheel, and the number 8 Toyota with Sebastian Buemi down in 4th. That gap is also looks like around 6 seconds right now between those two cars, which is the equal gap we have between the top two. So the Hypercar is sort of spreading out here a little bit, maybe a result of what we're seeing on screen right now with the traffic going on with those GT3 cars.
Indeed, yeah. It seems that the gaps are definitely interesting to pay attention to. I mean, that Cadillac right now has a pretty good gap to the BMW that's in second. Also, great race by the number 15 car and Marco Wittmann right now, pulling off some pretty incredible overtakes. By the way, the number 12 Hertz Team Jota Porsche has got ahead of the 63 Lamborghini. We can see how that's done as, never mind, that's actually the 38 Hertz Team Jota Porsche. My bad.
It's about as ambitious as you're going to get in that chicane as well.
True. Yeah, true. As the 12 is going to look for a move on the 63. Can he pull it off? Let's see. Oh, there is a McLaren off the track.
Yeah, it's that other McLaren. That's the 95, the car that was they were the car in second place, right?
I think that was the 59.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the 59 that was in second. Okay, so the 95 was the one that also went around about, what was that, 20, 30 minutes ago after contact from the sister car as well. So bad to worse for that car.
Yeah, it's not going good for the 95, and it's slow as well. Something's wrong. It has not been their race at all. Hopefully they make it back to the pit lane, but they're encountering the hypercars as well, the hypercar leaders. In fact, so we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully that 95 car can reclaim a better position. Meanwhile, we have a battle for the two. I think that this is for 12th position between the two Porsches.
Yep. Yeah, and they're still carrying the 31 WRT BMW behind. Now, this is the top two in the championship right now. Of course, both teammates. The number one thing they're going to want to do is not take each other out, as they both try to find their way up into the top 10, score any points they can in this race.
Yeah, they're close to the D station Aston Martin as well, which is in 11th. And the Lexus 78 car is not too far up the road, so one of them could get into the top 10 very shortly. We'll see how that goes. Of course, D Station Racing, based not too far away from Fuji, if I'm not mistaken. And this is their home race, so they'll be wanting to get into the points as well. It's been a pretty difficult season for them, and I like them to get into the points as well, because I predict them to finish second in the race in the live stream we had a while back, and I really want that prediction to come true, but it probably won't. But we'll see.
D Station Racing, bit of a home favorite, like you added there. Some experience in Super GT as well. I'm sure they got a handful of fans there. Now, it looks like the 95's barely making it back to the pits. I can't tell if they're just coasting right now, or if there's a local yellow flag that's being displayed. I'm assuming it's for that final sector.
And it shouldn't cause a full course safety car or anything like that, unless it's maybe they'll close the pit lane if it blocks the pit lane. But we'll come to that when it if and when it comes. But that car is at the back of the field right now, and seems to be that spin it had when it went off track was maybe caused to maybe not really a driver error or something like that, but maybe something more mechanical. Or something broke when it spun. Either way, it seems to be that McLaren is limping. Actually, it seems to be either stopped or slowly making its way through the field. Meanwhile, big battle going on here for what is, I believe, 9th. The Peugeot 93 car is in a battle with the 36 Alpine. Mick Schumacher defending this. It's two French cars going side by side. Here we go. Let's see as we head down into turn 1. Schumacher, I believe, is going to keep ahead unless the 93 can get a better exit. That's all depending on that corner exit. It looks like the 93 does not get ahead, so the German racer will stay ahead of the 93 Peugeot.
Yeah, getting an onboard here of earlier on in that straightaways. I can't tell if this is the same lap or maybe the lap before. All the way down to the grass between the 94 car and that Alpine. I'm sorry, that was the 93 and the 36 Alpine.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a contact or some sort of push off, or it wasn't good, I guess, in general. But it seems that there's no damage that causes either of the cars to come into the pit lane or anything like that. So that's just how it goes. Meanwhile, the battle for second in LMGT3 continues on, while the 95 McLaren is having a difficult day. The 59, which secured, I believe, a podium at Sao Paulo 2 races ago, is having a pretty solid race and defending against the Belgian racer Sarah Bovy in the 85 Iron Dames Lamborghini. And we'll see if that Huracan GT3 will be able to get ahead of the McLaren, which currently sits in second. And I think I mentioned this before, as we can actually see on screen on the live data, or on the live feed, the Corvette is just taking advantage of this, and Tom van Rompuy is just continuing to pull the gap to the second place position. So while this is good for the Iron Dames and the McLaren to have a battle like this, it's definitely losing them time to the race leader, the 81 Corvette.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get a cycle back to that battle for second in LMGT3, because I think this is probably Sarah Bovy's best chance that she's had in a little while here. Looked pretty close in the final sector going up to that long straightaway, and I'm curious if that's where she'd be able to finally get that move done. But it looks like we're not going to get that feed, so
maybe we'll catch it a little later on.
You don't win them all.
True, indeed. Well, we'll see how that goes. Meanwhile, there's this battle still for what is, I believe, 13th Lamborghini versus Alpine for this position, as the 35 sends it down the inside into what I believe is turn 10, and the Lamborghini will keep behind. That was a pretty neat move from the 35 Alpine, which is making its way through the field, as the Lamborghini is looking to reclaim that position, but doesn't. Back to the LMGT3 fight, and Iron Dames has got ahead. Sarah Bovey got ahead of the McLaren. Chris, you called it a little bit earlier on that Sarah Bovey had a really good shot, and probably the best shot she's had. She's made the move on the McLaren.
Yeah, I saw that in live timing. I knew she was going to be able to do that down the straightaway. She was close enough. I couldn't see exactly how close she was out of the final turn, but I knew that she was setting that move up for quite a few laps now. So now the question is, can she reel in the number 81 TF Sport Corvette, Tom van Rompuy? It's only a 3.8 second gap as it stands right now. It's certainly not as large a margin as we've seen for the lead in the hypercar category. Let's take a look. I'm not going to say we'll see because I've said it too long. Too many times.
It's all good. Well, I was going to say we'll see there, but I guess I won't.
We'll see.
We'll see. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Hypercar is continued to be led by the number 2 V Series R Cadillac, followed by the number 15 BMW and the number 6 Porsche Penske. The gap still remains around 4 seconds between the BMW and the Cadillac, with the number 6 Porsche a further 7 seconds or so behind the leading Cadillac entry and the only Cadillac entry in this race so far. Of course, we will have 2 V Series Rs joining next year, which is going to be great. And speaking of more entries, while we have a moment, Chris, I want to get your thoughts real quickly on the breaking news of Genesis looking into an endurance racing program. Of course, Genesis is the luxury brand of Hyundai, and that's big news that's just come out recently. Are you excited about this?
Of course. Why wouldn't I be?
True.
We didn't get a lot of details out of that announcement. We're not sure exactly when that program is going to hit the track. Whether it's 26, I've also seen 27 thrown around a little bit. So we'll see if that's when they actually end up going on track, whether it's a couple of years from now or more. But the more the merrier, as I've always said. Now the question is, how's the World Endurance Championship, I guess, and IMSA going to accommodate them on the grid? We're sort of already at capacity next year. And I would imagine we're going to be at it. Well, I guess in the WEC, they would have to add 2 cars to their full season program. We're talking, how many hypercars would that be? If I'm keeping count.
We've had 14 hypercar 14 manufacturers that have committed to the regulations. In Hypercar next year, we're going to have 10, at least, maybe even 11. We're going to have 9, maybe even 10 if like Van Wall or Isotta Freschini join. So I think that that would be around 11 at least, I think, in 2026 if Hyundai joins. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe at least 10. I think that grid size is definitely a factor for sure.
Long as nobody leaves, which I'm hoping nobody does, but a couple of years, we'll see. I did it again.
It's all good. But yeah, I think that hopefully we don't see anybody leave. It looks like not too many people are considering about it. So that's good. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, definitely excited to see this news that Genesis is likely joining the WEC and IMSA, and therefore competing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But anyway, back to the race. Let's get into this action.
Yeah, keep your eye on the 15 BMW. I've noticed that they've closed that gap in a couple of seconds here over the last few laps. I don't know if traffic's playing a hand at that or not, but Marco Wittmann in that 15 BMW is closing down the lead on Earl Bamber in the 2 Cadillac. It's down to 3.5 seconds as it stands right now. It was up to about 6.5 at one point. So keep an eye on that battle. I guess it's not a battle quite yet. But we're going 3 wide here between the 2 Jodas, and that would be the 93 Peugeot. And it looks like against all odds, the 2 Jodas got by. I would like to see a replay of that. We've seen a lot of moves in this race that have been very aggressive, and we're only just coming in on 1 hour in right now. Got a long race ahead of us here, and it looks like we're not going to see a stop to this anytime soon.
Yeah, a lot of aggressive moves for sure, and I mean, it is close racing, definitely. As whoa, wow, I'm astonished by that move. 35 Alpine round the outside of not just one GT car, but a prototype as well. That's the Peugeot 9X8, the 93 car, if I'm not mistaken. So phenomenal move by the 35 Alpine. But yeah, a lot of overtakes going on. But I think you do raise a very good point about the BMW, the 15 car. Marco Wittmann is closing in on that Cadillac. The gap is now around 3.1 seconds. It was around 4.4, somewhere around there earlier on. And we're just seeing a replay of that three-way battle for what is, I believe, P10 at the moment. But yeah, the 15 BMW. Definitely keep an eye on that car, viewers, throughout this race. BMW, not just taking a first podium, but a win. Is that possible? I guess we'll wait and find out.
Also, not far behind them, worth noting, if we see them on screen anytime soon, is the number 6 Porsche, driven by Lawrence Vantor. Only about a second and a half and change behind us. We see the 82, my pick, TF Sport Corvette, go into the garage here. Not sure why yet, but that's not what they're going to want to see. Let's just put it lightly.
This is Hiroshi Kazumi's home Grand Prix as well, or home race. Yep. And this is not good. That car was in P5 just a little bit ago, and the 82 was looking so good. We were talking about how GM was having such a good race. This is heartbreaking news for Corvette fans, for GM fans, for TF Sport fans, and for also for Hiroshi Kazumi fans as well, as he is a Japanese racer. Being wheeled into the garage in the 82 Corvette. We need to find out what's going on with this car. But this is definitely bad news, and it seems to be something at the back.
What happened to the 81 car? Did they pit? Because the Iron Dames are leading right now. Okay. So that was just a scheduled stop.
Yeah, they had a scheduled stop. Seems to be a pretty decent stop as well. I think they've exited in P10. But yeah, it seems the other LMGT3 cars in the lead are also coming in. That's the 46 BMW, the Vista AF Corsa Ferrari, the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, which took the win last time out in Texas, and the 59 United Autosports McLaren, which was in the top 3.
The only reason I'm keeping my eye on that is we still have the top 2, which are the 85 Iron Dames and also the 77 Proton Mustang, are still out on track, as is the 55. Now, the 55, I believe, pit earlier. Yeah, because they've actually been in the pits twice this race. The reason that's interesting is because you're seeing these cars into the pits around the hour mark into the race. Now, also keep in mind, we had that brief safety car period as well, in which case all of these cars were saving a bit of fuel or energy. I'm curious if that plays a factor towards the end of this race, if we stay without a safety car for the rest of the race. Is that advantage Iron Dames and Proton and Vista AF Corsa with that 55 car?
It's definitely possible. I mean, this is definitely an interesting strategy by Iron Dames. Are they going to stay out longer? There's a lot of questions coming up from this. We'll see how it goes. Right now, they are continuing to lead this race, but...
they're in the pits right now.
Oh, they're in the pits. Okay. Well, we'll see. And maybe the undercut's going to work out for the United Autosports McLaren, and that car will leapfrog the Iron Dames Lamborghini, or the Iron Dames have a great pit stop, things go well, and they close up the gap to the 81 TF Sport Corvette. We will definitely see how this goes. But the 85 is in the pit lane. Proton Competition should take the lead of this. Actually, never mind. They are also pitting. So, and if the Vista AF Corsa Ferrari also pits, then it will be the lead will be taken back by the 81 TF Sport Corvette. Meanwhile, we have one of our first standard pit stops in Hypercar. That's the 63 Lamborghini SC63 by Iron Lynx. Sorry. That is coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, just a quick callback to Vista. Of course, they'll be able to stay out a couple more laps because they did pit under the last safety car.
True.
So they're the ones that I'm sort of keeping my eye on if this stays green the rest of the race, because as it stands right now, they are in the lead. They have a pretty comfortable lead over the 81, which is the first car that did pit. Curious if that plays factor. Now, we haven't been able to escape a hypercar battle for position seemingly this entire race. Right now, we're looking at a battle between the 35 Alpine and the number 12 Hertz Team Jota 963 for 8th on track. Both cars coming up at the end of the stint. Should expect them into the pits any time now within the next lap or two, I would say. Also have the 99 Proton Competition 963 in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's a really intense battle here involving the Lexus as well, as we saw a replay almost 4 wide between a lot of those cars. That was very intense. Maybe
Oh, there
even
was contact.
Oh, you're right. And
between which Jota was that? In the 87 Lexus.
30.
We
I gotta say that
riding
was the
forward with there.
12. Might have been the 12 Hertz Team Jota Porsche. I'm not really sure, but you're right. There was contact there, which is very fascinating for sure. Also, viewers, I just want to point out something. 1.4 seconds is the gap between second and third overall. The number 6 Porsche is closing the gap. Maybe that's due to the tires or fuel with the number 15 BMW. The BMW is still actually closing the gap to the number 2 Cadillac. So things are definitely getting intense up at the top, and the number 7 Toyota is also right on the back for the 8, so we could potentially see a swap between the two GR010s from the Japanese manufacturer. So we'll definitely see how that goes. But yeah, you're right. I think that we're consistently seeing battles in Hypercar, and it's definitely not going to end.
I'm not complaining. I'll say that. It's so crazy to me. I mean, I've been watching this championship pretty in depth for the last 9 years now. I started really paying attention in 2015. And I'll still, put my hand up and say that I think 15 was the most invested I was in the championship because of how much of a fan I was of Audi. And rest their soul, they're not here right now competing as they should be. But looking back at all of the years, it's still insane to me to watch how many hypercars there are on track. You have to remember that 5 years ago, there were, I could count the number of cars in the LMP1 class on one hand. And now we're looking at 18 cars in the field right now. And we're seeing nonstop battles somewhere for position on track. It's so much, in fact, that it's difficult for you and I to pay attention to what's even going on. What a nice problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo your words for sure. And I think even thinking back just 2 years, think back to the 2022 6 hours of Fuji. There was only 2 kinds of hypercars on the grid, the Toyota GR010 and the Peugeot 9X8. Only 4 hypercars in the field. Of course, that's also including, not including the Alpine A480, which was an LMP1 grandfathered car, but we don't count that as a hypercar. That wasn't an LMH or an LMDH. But considering that there was only just 4 cars or 2 kinds of cars in the hypercar field last year, 2 years later, we're now at 8 different manufacturers in the hypercar category here at Fuji with 18 cars, like you mentioned. I mean, this is absolutely incredible to see how far the WEC has come, and we're getting even bigger. This is getting even bigger. We just talked about Genesis joining. Aston Martin is coming into the championship next year. There's possibilities of more manufacturers joining on the way as well. And then there's also the possibility of the return of Isotta Fraschini one day if they ever wish to return. Van Wall's also hoping for a return in 2025. So there's a lot of attention on the hypercar class, and it's just going to get bigger, viewers. I know we keep saying that every single year, but it is honestly true. 2024 has been an absolute, stunning, fantastic thing, but it is just getting bigger and bigger. I'm sorry to interrupt my conversation here, or interrupt myself. Meanwhile, there is some changing going on because one of the BMWs is, something's going on with the front wing. Is that the 15 BMW?
That's the 20.
That's the 20.
The 20.
Oh, the
2 and the 15 are in the pits for a scheduled stop. Now they're doing a front clip change here for the nose on the 20 car. And it looks like it's taking them probably a little bit longer than it should. I don't know if they're struggling with that, or if so, why.
Yeah, that's I got a heart-mouth kind of situation right there, because the 15 BMW was in the hunt for the win, and I was hoping that its day wasn't ruined by something. But the leaders now, the overall lead, is the number 6 Porsche Penske, followed by the number 7 Toyota, and the number 94 Peugeot 9X8. We haven't seen a Peugeot in the top 3 here at Fuji since 2022. Great to see that for sure. That's awesome. And the 20 is going into the garage. The 20 is going into the garage. That's a BMW into the garage. This is not good news for BMW Team WRT. Thankfully, it's not the 15, but the 20. What has happened here seems to be more than a front wing change. This is, or a front part of the car change. But this is bad news.
It looked to me like I'm guessing they had damage on the front of that car. They were trying to change the nose on it, and they just couldn't get that front nose assembly on, not the front nose, the nose assembly on that car. I don't know if they picked up some damage with another car on track and it damaged one of the clips or what the issue was there. But I'm imagining that's something they can just judging off what I think is going on here. I'll imagine we'll see them out on track a couple laps from now, probably, but that's a race ender. At this, we're talking about the number of cars we have. Okay, there you go.
Sorry to interrupt.
We're talking about the number of cars we have in the class nowadays. That's a race ender for them. I can't see any scenario where they're going to finish in the points at this point. And we're seeing with that sister car, the number 15, that BMW is very strong here at this track. It's going to be a disappointing race for the 20.
Yeah, definitely disappointing. And even though it is back out on track again, sorry for interrupting you there, Chris, but I just want to point that out. But yeah, it's definitely going to be probably not the best result for the 20 BMW. We hope that they achieve a good result, but still a long race to go. We'll see how that happens, how that plays out. But that was definitely not the thing that they wanted. Thankfully, it seems the car is back out on track, so that's good news. And I think you were mentioning that the M Hybrid V8 is performing really well here at Fuji. If this continues to be the case, this will be their best performance in the WEC with the M Hybrid V8 so far. I think that this honestly is their best performance so far, considering that the 15 BMW was in the hunt for the win and in the podium position. BMW hasn't really been in a podium position at all during the season, besides maybe the Lone Star Le Mans event where the 20 car was in the fight for second and third, kind of, and a little bit of the race. It overtook the 50 Ferrari around the outside of a GT car, which is really strong from Rene Rast, by the way. But yeah, it seems that the 15 BMW is now the car that's getting the good luck, and hopefully they can pull off a strong result. By the way, in this camera view that we have on the feed for just a moment, we had all Japanese cars on track at that particular moment. That means both Lexus and both Toyotas, which is awesome to see. Really, really cool. And all four cars are running relatively good. By the way, the number 6 Porsche has jumped the Cadillac and the BMW, and this will take the 6 will take over the lead of the race. What has happened here? This is pretty big. It may be a change in strategy, a different strategy, or has the 6 Porsche pulled off an incredible pit stop, an incredible lap to get ahead of both of those cars into the lead of this race?
Well, I'd love to pull up the pit stop timing if I could, which doesn't seem like I have the ability to do. But yeah, the passing not one but 2 cars in the pits there. They didn't have a whole lot of time between themselves in third place in the leading Cadillac. I think it was only about 2 seconds by the time they went into the pits. But advantage Porsche now, and it's the 6 car, the one that was so strong here last year, looked like they were going to be in contention for the win. Ultimately just didn't have the pace of Toyota. Are we going to see a similar story here with them in the lead, but Cadillac being a little bit quicker?
And 3 LMDH cars in this fight as well, with the Porsche, the Cadillac, and the BMW. 3 cars that also compete in IMSA as well, which is great to see. But yeah, this is getting really intense. That number 2 Cadillac looks pretty strong, though. It is right on the back. Earl Bamber, I believe, in the car of this number 2 Cadillac, and I think it's possible that we could see the V-Series R reclaim the lead of this race once the 51 Ferrari does come into the pit lane.
It's actually Alex Lynn in that car, if my timing is right. They did do a driver change to Alex Lynn. Lawrence Vantor stayed in the number 6 Porsche, as did Marco Wittmann in the 15 BMW. Now, don't know if that played any factor into the Cadillac seemingly have a slightly longer pit stop. But nonetheless, it is a race lead now, a provisional race lead for the number 6 Porsche. I do want to go back really quick to the 20 BMW that was in the garage. Now, some people might be wondering why they would bring it into the garage for 15, 20 seconds and then wheel it back out. There is good reasoning for that in the WEC. there's a specific number of personnel that you're allowed outside of the car when it's in the pit lane. Now, I forget what that number is off the top of my head. When it's in the garage, though, you can have as many people as you want. If you have an army of crew members there, you can have them all swarm the car and do whatever they want to it. But when it's out actually on the active pit lane, you can only send a certain amount of personnel out there. So sometimes it's worth wheeling it back into the garage and just getting every single person you can on that car, even if it's going to cost you an extra couple seconds in the long run, just so you can try to diagnose that issue a little bit quicker.
Thank you for explaining that, because that's definitely great information to know for all our viewers watching, and for myself as well. You know, it's good for me to hear that clarification on that point. So yeah, the number 20 BMW is back out on track, and it seems to be less of an issue than I initially thought when it was getting put into the garage. Because usually when it's being put in the garage, that's usually not good news. But I think it was not as bad as I initially thought. So anyway, the 51 Ferrari continues to lead this race, but it will come into the pit lane. The number 6 Porsche will take over the lead, seemingly later on, once the 51 does come into the pits. And you mentioned there as well that Alex Lynn jumped into the car. And so that's actually good news for Cadillac, because that means that once Porsche go in for their next stop, they will likely have to do a driver swap, which will move them behind. So it's all really about the strategy here, in my opinion. And I think that it's possible that we could see a Cadillac retake the lead, or maybe even BMW. We'll see. Anyway, though, the 51 Ferrari is in the pit lane. Just wanted to update everybody on that, and it will drop behind the top 3.
I think looking at this right now, I think Porsche is actually sitting very comfortable. If I've looked at the last half hour, BMW, I think they had pretty strong race pace compared to the Cadillac, but I think Porsche probably had the best of the 3, and ultimately probably the best on track. I'm looking at the number 5 car as well, Fred Macavecchi, who had to pit earlier for that turn 1 incident.
Right.
He's actually up in 8th right now, showing 9th, but it's going to be 8th once the 51 Ferrari goes out on track. I believe they have served all the pit stops that they need to. They've pit 3 times in this race. So that should be the 2 they had earlier, but also the 1 scheduled stop that everybody else is doing. So I think they're 8th place officially on track right now. And very interested to see if they're able to continue that charge up the field.
This is great news for Porsche Penske, to have the car, number 6 car, in the race lead, especially for the championship's hopes, because Toyota took over the manufacturer's lead after Lone Star Le Mans. It was not Porsche's race at the Circuit of the Americas. But if they can get a strong result like a win here, this would be really, really good. And the 5 Porsche is moving its way through the field. As you mentioned, Frederick Macavecchi in that car seems to be in that place according to the official map, and it doesn't seem like he's there just because of not pitting or whatever. So that's great news for sure. We will see how that goes. But yeah, I think we will be probably ending our stream off in just a moment here, just because, of course, myself and Chris don't have the ability to talk for the whole race. It would be too late into the night for us. But also because I don't want to deal with the copyright issues, viewers. I don't want to deal with any of the WEC coming in and saying like, hey, we can't have you stream for a certain amount of time. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure to point that out. But yeah, the number 6 Porsche continues to lead this race. I believe the 81 Corvette is leading in LMGT3, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, it is still the 81 car in GT3. I was just checking that a minute ago myself.
Okay.
And it looks like they're slightly extending the gap on the second place Iron Dames. Sarah Bovey still behind the wheel.
Well, that's good news. Good news for TF Sport and Corvette Racing in general. Hopefully, they can pull off a strong result here at Fuji. But as much as I would love to stream for the whole time of this race, Chris, if you don't mind, I think we're gonna probably head out here and call it a night in terms of the live streaming process. I'm sure you and myself will continue to watch the racing as it continues on. But I want to say thank you so much for joining me here, Chris, for this live streaming process. It's been a pleasure to have you on here. A lot of fun, and I hope we can do something like this in the future.
Yeah, anytime. It's been great to have have this little watch along here. I would actually love to be able to do it for the entire race, but I don't think people want to see me progressively start falling asleep as we get into the deeper hours of the nighttime here in the United States.
Yeah, it does get quite late, but I'm sure we can do something for the future. I think that would definitely great. I think we've collaborated before on videos as well, which has been great. Viewers, if you want to check out Chris's channel, GT Rain, take a look at the link in the description if you have not subscribed already. He's a major content creator on endurance racing and a really high quality content creator as well. He produces a lot of great videos, a lot of great insights into endurance racing. So definitely check it out. Link in the description down below. And thank you all so much for joining us during this live stream. If you'd like to catch the remainder of the race and you're not aware already, head over to FIAWEC.tv for the official live stream. And if you can't access that, likely for those in the United States of America, you can check that over on Max, the Max streaming service. That's where it's broadcasted. And for those that are racing, for those that are watching the race in the country of Japan, where the race is actually taking place, of course, it's going to be on J Sports. So, as we approach the safety car or VSC right when we're ending the stream. So this is, I guess, a perfect time to pause where we're at.
Good segue.
Exactly. Well, again, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Viewers, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later. It's going to be an intense end to the 6 hours of Fuji, a very exciting one for sure, and